Hello, and welcome to Between Two Peers, a live stream show where the hosts invite a guest from around the known world to answer your pressing questions about life, the universe, and everything. This week, we're sponsored by LaCroix. LaCroix? LaCroix. I'm never sure how to pronounce that. Anyways, or Vancouver Tap Water. Our guest does not do the alcohol, but she will drink you right under the table, taking shots of LaCroix. I think it's LaCroix. I am one half of your original Broadway recording cast, Tulia Alori. I'm a Laurel from the West Kingdom. I am joined tonight by a very special noodle who is very excited about being held right now. So hopefully he'll stop interrupting me with his meowing, incessant meowing. And without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to my beautiful co-host, Helga, for her intro.
Hi, I'm Helga. I'm from the West Kingdom. I am a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer, and sassy AF. So I'm just super excited to be here because we've got all the original cast and crew behind the scenes again, and that makes me happy because, well, I couldn't do it without these guys. And so with that, I'm petting my puppy because he's being demanding. Tonight is all the animal demandings. I would like to introduce our amazing guest, Achaxe.
Achaxe.
I almost got it right. Okay. Me and names. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Achaxe. I am a Laurel from the Kingdom of Ontir. I've been a Laurel for 17 years and 30th week. Oh, I'm not doing origin story. So, yeah, that's it.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. I promise. All right, so with that, I'm going to remind everybody of the drinking game. This is opt-in, and it doesn't have to be alcohol, i.e. what our guest is doing this evening, and so we'll go from there.
And I'm also actually not doing alcohol tonight, too. I took way too many painkillers today, so no alcohol for Sarah. Tulia.
I have us all covered.
Shit, that's a drink.
So I'm going to remind you that this is a fantastic way to become very hydrated as well. So use as an excuse, hydration is key. So the drinking game rules are, when a host or guest uses a mundane name when referring to somebody else on the show. When somebody's pet appears on camera, we're already one drink behind. When somebody calls for a soapbox or the audience calls us on a soapbox. When somebody mentions spite sprinkles or toe beans. And what is the guest rule of the evening?
When you talk to someone from behind the curtain, either one of you.
Oh, when we break the fourth wall?
I like it. All right. So
I like that one.
We want to just bounce right into the questions.
Yeah, and we're going to roll right into the questions.
Okay, so this little chunk of questions, these are specifically for you, Achaxe.
Okay.
This is us asking you, how did you find the E-SCA?
I ran into a woman at an Irish pub who had a very interesting piece of jewelry on. It was a spear, a bronze spear, and I asked her about it. And she launched into a spiel about this medieval martial art that she did, and I should come out and check it out on Sundays. And so I went to the Gasworks Park practice in Seattle on Sundays for about 3 weeks with my headphones and my sketch pad, and I didn't talk to anyone. And eventually somebody came over and talked to me, and that's how that happened.
When was that?
1995.
Because your little bio said, I think you joined in AS30, so that would be like 95, 96.
Yeah. 30 year was my first event.
Wow.
Oh, that's a hell of a first event.
Yeah. I was in the E-SCA at that point, but I hadn't like, we didn't go to that one. Like, I'd been in a couple of years, but like, and it wasn't that far. It was up in Oregon, wasn't it?
It actually was in Vancouver.
Vancouver. Okay, that's why. That's why, because it was too far away. Yeah.
Yeah, and all I remember about that event was there were a lot of really beautiful, long blonde-haired kings running around.
Yep. That's probably the Western king. Probably would have been Alden.
Alden.
Yeah. It's like long-haired, beautiful. That's probably Alden.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God he doesn't watch this show. I don't want him knowing anything like that. Came out of my mouth. All right, next question.
This one comes from Petrona. As a person with a non-Eurocentric focus and persona, what are some ways we can support and encourage the study and representation of less common cultures?
Don't give us weird looks.
Baby Ninja is furiously pointing at the camera, doing this.
So I'll tell you a story. Our whole family, my sister, my husband, my son, and I all came down for La Providora. Early, my son was little, so it must have been like 2005, 2006-ish. And I had this hat that I made that's a big Scythian felted hat that's very phallic. Thorfinn tells a lovely story about
God,
it.
that was you?
That's me.
It all comes back to Thorfinn. It's like
the penis hat. It was quite the sensation.
We started walking across the list fields in the evening, and everything went quiet, and everyone was watching us. And my sister and her squire and I were walking together, and I'm like, God, what's going on? And Misty's like, Rivkin, sorry. She's like, it's your hat. It's your fucking hat. So, yeah, I'm pretty open to talking about what I'm wearing and why. And I think that most people who do an alternate persona like that do it for a reason. I've been studying it for over 20 years. I love it. Once you get me going, I can't shut up. If you ask me a research question, I'm like, and I give you way too much information. Yeah, Helga can attest to this. She's like, okay, stop.
No. I'm never like, please stop. I'm always like, hey, I think you're really cool, and I'd really like to know about this thing. And can we geek out about this thing? But I'm really shy. And then you're just like, yes, motherfucker. What info would you like?
So you do Scythian, right? And
I do, which is, it's 450 BC. I focus on the Pazyryk finds, which are kind of where China and Mongolia and Tuva meet. So it's a little weird.
Yeah, Scythian is a really broad. It's like saying, I do Viking or whatever. It's kind of 100%. A very broad term for very specific cultures.
And the Scythians we're a tribal culture. So when you say the Scythians, it's like saying you have a Slavic, there's all these different tribes. There's all these different subcultures. There's a definite line of common costume features. And they are not a literate culture. So we are never going to know all of the ins and outs of the specifics of each tribe. So we just do our best and honor the culture as much as we can.
Cool.
So,
nice.
I don't know if I answered that question or not.
I thought that was great.
Okay.
So this is another question from us to you. What drives your passion for your art/service/fighting?
I'm always driven to create. I think that's just I think that's just a part of who I am. I get inspired when I get to teach new people about the culture and they start making cool things, and I'm like, oh, well, I better up my game. I need to make some cool things too.
I was about to say, who freaked out about needing to make a new tunic for the show?
Yes.
I did, and I made a set of dresses, and they don't do well while I'm sitting, so I'm not wearing them.
Girl, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. The struggle is real.
Some things just don't look good when you're sitting.
Yeah.
They're really great when I'm standing up. So, but that, my husband is very inspiring. My sister is very inspiring. I'm really lucky that my real life sister is such a big part of my life in and out of the E-SCA.
So who discovered the E-SCA first? You or
I did.
Or Rivkin?
I did.
Yeah.
And I said to her, hey, I think you would really like this, because she played field hockey and swam competitively and was on a road crew in college. She's always been an athlete. And I was like, I really think you're going to like this. And she was like, you are so geeky and that's never happening. And that's the biggest, dorkiest thing ever. And now she's way more into it than I am. So there we are.
Yeah, there you go. Next question.
All right, this one comes from Elise. How often do folks fanboy/fangirl at you?
Never.
Can you back it up like 3 minutes?
I was about to say, I call BS, and yes, my mic is live. Helga did it literally 3 minutes ago.
Okay, not very often.
I was going to say, how often do you recognize people fangirling at you or like fanboying at you?
Never. I guess sometimes you can tell that somebody's really uncomfortable talking to you, like in person. You get that vibe, and then you just try to show them that you're a complete dork. And
you're gonna have to go back and watch the YouTube comments, because it's actually like people are like, "Nope, I fangirl," or "Nope, I totally do it." Like it's just totally happening in the chat for you right now.
Well, so that's what's weird about being on SCA TV every week, right? Is I'm still the same dorky mom that mostly wears sweatpants around the house and cleans house a lot, and my face is just really familiar to people now, and it really wasn't before. Oh, that's so weird.
Okay,
SCA famous.
SCA famous. It's so weird.
It is weird. You're gonna say something, Helga?
I was about to say, does it count with baby ninja talking that we have to drink?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Every time Baby Ninja's mic cuts in, which actually I really do love. So I'm not. That's not like me saying that's bad.
I mean, we love it enough that he's going to be on the show in a couple weeks.
That's true. Yeah.
So
all right.
With that,
lightning round. We're gonna
lightning round. So choose one. No explanation.
So we all go. We give an answer. We can't explain it though. Mm-hmm. So first one is Crocs or Birkenstocks.
Oh, Crocs.
Crocs.
I'm going with Birkenstocks.
Okay. Cat or dog?
Both. There's not a choice to be made there.
Nope, you can't. We already told you can't choose one.
Cat.
Dog.
Cat. Mm-hmm. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
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 Hot chocolate or coffee?
Coffee.
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 Comedy or horror?
Oh, comedy. I'm not a horror girl.
Comedy.
Comedy.
Also, I would like to note that I actually look at most horror movies as comedy at this point in my life.
Well, yeah, there's also, we can't get too deviation on this, but there is a whole subgenre of horror that is actually straight up comedy. So,
all right, Superman or Batman?
Aquaman.
I go with Batman. I'm not a DC girl, but I go with Batman.
Oh, I'm going with Superman.
He's so boring. Lions or bears?
Lions. On tier. Rawr.
Mm-hmm.
Lion. Frozen yogurt or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Burgers or tacos?
Tacos.
Tacos.
Burgers. That's really hard, though. Man, that's really hard.
Magneto or Professor X?
Oh, Professor X.
Professor X.
Magneto.
I can understand Magneto, but gotta go with.
I understand his like fucked up backstory, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. All right. So with that out of the way, we're going to dive right into addressing a question that came up a couple of shows back that caused a big reaction about the kind of the nature of the question, and Achaxe said that she wanted to address it, and we, Helga and I were both talking about ways that we could address this question. So when Achaxe said that she was interested in tackling it, we were like, great, let's do this. Let's get this, let's get this done. So this is a warning. A few shows ago, we decided to take this question, and our amazing guest reached out and said she wanted to crack at it. So discussion time about this question. Also note, this question was submitted for our Flame Wars episode, and it was submitted anonymously. So this was intentionally supposed to be a provocative question, and boy, was it really provocative. Yeah, it did. It generated a lot of commentary. I had my boss calling me the day after and said, my Facebook page is suddenly very active. What did you do?
I got that call too.
Our boss is in the E-SCA with us, so yeah. Anyway, so this is the question. Why are laurels bitches?
So I'm going to interrupt here for a moment. I have already answered this question, and so we talked about this behind the scenes. I'm actually sitting out on this one unless a point comes up. I feel that at this point, this is the turn the tables and have both the laurels ask it. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to drink my drink and enjoy listening to you guys and sitting the fuck down.
So I guess I go first because I'm the guest.
Yeah, you're the guest.
Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts about this. One of the first events that I went to, in my first year, I woke up to a very contentious laurel meeting happening next to my tent. I did not know that I was camped there, and it was horrible. People were saying horrible things, and I was brand new, and I was horrified. And I very firmly believed, because of that experience, that laurels are bitches, because that was awful. I don't believe that anymore. I also, in the 17-ish years that I've been a laurel, have never been in a meeting that's been like that. I don't know what happened at that meeting, but it was definitely special. I do think that the laurels have a PR problem. I think that there's a lot of secrecy around the peerages in the E-SCA. And I think that as a result of that, people feel left out and people fill in the gaps when there are secrets. And I think that we need to do some work to remedy that. It's part of why I started doing the Branch of Laurels interview series, because I wanted people to see that laurels are just normal human beings who have become obsessed with a certain art form and have gone a little off the rails. So I don't know. I think I get it. I understand why people say that. And I hope that people will make friends with a laurel and understand that that's a really unfair statement in a lot of ways. So
yeah, I kind of have the same answer in broad sense. I have only been a laurel for just under 10 years. I was laureled in January of 2012. So next year will be my 10-year anniversary. I'll be over the hill. But I had all these ideas in the run up to my offer about bitchy laurels. It is absolutely a thing. It is a big thing. And the laurel councils in every kingdom, every laurel is acutely aware of the fact that they have a shitty PR problem. And it's, we could theorize forever about why that is. Back in the mists of time, were the first laurels exclusive assholes about everything? Or was it just the idea that I think still today, and Achaxe actually said basically the same thing, that because we have these secret meetings, people feel excluded or judged, and they fill in the blanks about what it could be that we're all talking about behind their backs. And then they take every single interaction with us as a potential attack or a potential, a judgment on them. I'm not going to lie and say that there aren't shitty laurels. There absolutely are people that happen to be laurels that just really, really suck at, interpersonal interaction or giving constructive critique, giving, sharing information without belittling somebody and making them feel, talked down to. There's a whole lot of things there that are more human problems. I think that those are just human problems, but we put such we elevate these people that happen to be very, very good at an art or a science. We give them a title, we give them status, and they're still just the same people that just can suck at giving constructive criticism or have this tendency to talk down to somebody when they're talking to them. And that's something that we it's kind of wrapped up in the PLQs, but it's something that I think really is hard to really not account for, but to judge how that's going to go once somebody becomes a laurel. Because sometimes it's even the thing that, once they get a laurel, their bad behavior comes out because they were just behaving themselves long enough to get the cookie, and they get the cookie, and then now they can be an asshole. Those are rare, though. Those instances I feel are pretty rare. They do, though. You run into one shitty peer, and that peer will color your perception of the entire peerage forever, to some degree. Even when you get offered entry into that peerage, you're still going to be sitting there thinking, yeah, well, Mistress so-and-so was a complete bitch to me about this dumb thing like 15 years ago, and, they suck, right? But yeah, it's a hard place to start from. Where you're always kind of on this defensive, where you're literally, I'm saying me as a laurel, I guess I'm saying me really as a laurel. I feel like I'm always kind of on a defensive level, trying to reflexively make sure everyone around me feels good about themselves, happy about what they're doing, supported, all of this stuff, and then have it turned right around on me as just kind of like the broad brush of, oh, laurels are bitches. And you're like, but I'm not, I'm trying really hard,
Yeah.
But there's really no way. I honestly don't think that there's a way to account for that, because it's human nature. I think it's two forms of human interaction that just are always going to create kind of this tension. We can do as much outreach and talking, and like A Branch of Laurels is a really good example of this, where you just demystify a lot of the process. There needs to be a kind of a thing like, we can't tell you everything we talk about on the council, but we sure as hell can actually tell you how the councils are run. Like, most of the time, Achaxe, in fact, when you said like your first experience was waking up to this contentious argument happening in a council, I honestly, my imagination ran wild with what councils were like before I actually sat on one. And there's been some contentious, not like bad fights or anything like that. It's not like people name calling or screaming at each other, but there's been some like, passionate sides being argued. But they're really rare. Mostly it's kind of a love fest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And as a result of that experience, that early experience, when I was offered, I spent some time, do I really want to do this? And if I do this and I encounter this kind of shittiness, what am I going to do? And so after I got past the initial few years of, I have all these expectations of what a laurel should be, and holy shit, it's really hard to fulfill all of those expectations. And I need to self-adjust, because I couldn't fulfill all of those things that I was expecting laurels to be.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of readjust. But then I got involved in being laurel secretary. And I think people would be really surprised at how disorganized most laurel councils are. Some kingdoms don't have notes on candidates. They don't track people. They don't do any of that. When I started in our kingdom, we have a regional system. We have 7 regions. I think it's 7. And candidates come up through that council and then get taken up to kingdom when the region feels that they're ready. And we do basically a PowerPoint presentation on that candidate and take them to kingdom. And we have secretaries at the regional level, and we have a kingdom secretary. And when I stepped into the secretary position, there was no job description. there was no training manual. There was nothing that said what you should be doing or how to do it. And so Helga was asking, what do we do to fix that PR problem? And so the first step for me was writing Laurel Secretary job descriptions and getting that out there, and giving us a framework to work from, because people weren't wanting to, the secretaries weren't changing over, and people needed to know what they were getting into before they took on a job. And so we did that. And we've really worked hard to look at each candidate as, how can we help this person? How can we lift that person up? Who's going to mentor them? You know, do they have a mentor? We really are looking at it from that point of view. I also think that we need to get up on our websites. LACOC has a really great what is a laurel section on their website. And so that's kind of one of the next projects I want to work on, is getting a really good description of what the council is like in Ontario, and just to help, because it's some information, right? It's not everything, but it's something.
Right. I do think that the biggest thing I think can happen to help with the PR about, specifically with laurels, but in peers in general, is demystifying what goes on in the councils, and not making it such a state secret. And this runs contrary to actually some very dear friends of mine that feel that there should be nothing that ever is talked about regarding anything in the council, from the procedure and the process, all the way through to, specifics about candidates. I mean, obviously the specifics about candidates, that is verboten. No, not talking about that.
Ever.
Yeah, but I feel like it's perfectly fine if people know, well, this is how we run a meeting, it's literally just a meeting, and we have the list of candidates, and we talk about each candidate, we run through them. We have notes in the West. We have the Laurel counselor secretary. They'll prepare a kind of just a little handout that has the name, a photo of the person, and what they're known for, last event that they were at, kind of like the basics about it. And so we can always refer back to that. But then each, we'll give let's let this person stay where they are. Yes, let's talk more about this person. That conversation happens. And then we go back and we talk about the people that we want to have a serious conversation about. If there's any issues, they get brought up at that point. And then what happens is how do we address these issues conversation. The laurels aren't just sitting there being like, well, this person was a dick to me like 2 years ago. Fuck them. It's very politely said, I have issues with this candidate. But someone else will say, well, how can we address those issues? How can we help the candidate? If the candidate is running into a PLQ issue, if it's, their art is in some way just not up to where you want to see it, but they're great otherwise, how do we help that candidate? And so there's a lot of real hard work that the Laurel Council invests in these candidates when they're close. And that's something I did not know. I had no idea. I thought it was, in my head, I was just like, oh yeah, well, thumbs up, thumbs down. They suck, they don't. It's not like that at all. At least in my kingdom. I can't vouch for any other kingdom, but I've talked to many, many laurels from around the known world that are basically like, yeah, basically that. So yeah, I don't know.
It's the same here.
Yeah.
And with meetings online, we're able to screen share a full resume of the person that we're talking about as we're in the meeting. And it's fantastic, because there have been years where we've talked about a particular candidate, and I don't have the name face connection for that candidate. And so I can't give input because I don't know who they are. And I don't know everybody in our kingdom. I don't know everybody in our region. So I can't give feedback on everybody, but having the pictures up really, really helps. And having pictures of the work, it's one of the really cool things about doing online meetings is having that available.
So I'm also looking at some of the comments that are coming in on the we're probably taking a lot more time on this than intended, but it's a big question. So on YouTube comments, and Amber says, people think badly of laurels because there have been for some time and continue to be a contention of the laurels that act and speak from a place of intellectual superiority and use it as a weapon. That sounds like a very specific person, maybe persons that that have this issue. If this is an issue, and this is, I'm just going to say this generally, but in reality, like if you're watching this and you're in the West Kingdom and there's somebody that you keep running into who's a laurel, it just makes you feel like shit every single time, they open their mouths, you feel talked down to and disrespected in any sort of way, come and tell me, especially if it's me. Oh my God. Like, yeah. or go tell somebody else to tell me, like, that sounds like it's a very specific person or persons, but not an entire order. Like it is one of those things, like, and Fleeg said earlier in the comments, one bad apple. It is absolutely, but that's true with all the peerages. Yeah. You run into like one shitty knight and all the knights are shitty, like
even when you're married to a knight and your sister's a knight, sometimes
you feel
like all knights are shitty because of one person. And so it's hard to keep your focus on your positive interactions with peers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really important that we start doing that. And keep in mind that it's very, very likely that every laurel that you're encountering has also had that interaction with that one laurel that talked down to them at one point. I had a laurel at Penzic tear me apart, and it was in my first 2 years of the E-SCA, and it was a little heart-wrenching because it was a costume I'd worked really hard on. It was an Elizabethan. And you can let those things destroy you, or you can let those things motivate you.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, that I'm motivated by spite. And I think, we were kind of talking about this in the chat earlier, that like, nothing really motivates me more than just like, yeah, that person thinks this thing about me. Well, fuck it. I am going to be the best thing they've ever seen. And I'm going to be so much better. And that was kind of my, my entire like first probably like first 10 years of my E-SCA experience was that. But it's all, it is all kind of this weird thing where we let individuals color our perception about the entire group, and that's a human thing. That literally is a human thing. But also there is the ability to either speak up for yourself and say, I will not be treated that way. Yes, that's scary, especially when it's a peer. I understand that. Or coming to a peer that you trust and saying, I'm having this repeated problem with a member of your order. And like Achaxe said, we probably already know the problem children in the order and have been trying to mitigate damage for a long time. And maybe that there is some way that we can, at least make sure that they back the fuck off of you. If nothing else, don't talk to this person anymore. It is a hard thing because we don't have a heck of a lot of real control, but we do have social pressures, and we don't get to exercise those nearly as much. I feel like we've talked a lot. Achaxe, do you think you have addressed the high points of this conversation?
Yeah, I think also you're having Master Charles on next week.
Yes.
And he posted a really excellent video where he just kind of a diatribe. He called it that, I think. So I think it's fair to call it that. It
was a rant. I don't know. Yeah, the language that he used, but it was definitely very opinionated.
But it was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We'll share that link because it's still up. I think it actually came up again on Facebook for me. I can drop that into the Facebook group and we can share that on the Facebook page. But it was great. It actually was, about an hour long real talk conversation about how laurels, how the council works, how laurels are perceived. And I think part of it was sort of borne out by this question that was asked in the previous show and some other run-ins and issues that were happening more locally to him and Antir. And he was just very candid and he was brilliant. And it was probably the best single lecture, talk I've had ever. I kind of want everybody to watch it. So anyway, I think we've covered it. Helga, honestly, do you have any thoughts? Anything you want to add?
I do, because we went into the PR thing.
Yeah.
And so again, I will not speak as Laurel or the Laurel and for the Laurel Council. However, I will speak as a peer and as a person that I hope is a little bit more in touch with the next generation. Not saying that you guys aren't. I'm just saying that like we actually have to watch generational shifts. The upcoming generation requires open, honest accountability and action with a big fucking dose of transparency. And the only way that you can beat the rumor mill is by owning why the rumor mill exists. And right now, I feel in the E-SCA, we do not have an accountability for the assholes within our orders.
Yeah.
And that colors all the orders because nobody is taking action. And we are living in a mundane society that is literally blowing up about that. So until we come to the point of starting to openly call people out, especially our problem children, and tracking problem children, this is going to be a repeat offense. We're going to continue having Laurels tear apart people because they aren't getting the proper training on how to critique versus just giving terrible feedback. We're going to get knights that are the assholes because they have not actually faced the fact that, the 1970s, you got away with sexual assault. You don't fucking do that now. We're going to continue having pelicans that bark orders versus knowing how to project manage. We have a different generation with better tools, and we need to upgrade those tools. And when we do, we will start beating all the rumors about all the orders. And that will make us better as a society. And that's what we need to do PR-wise for everything in the E-SCA.
Carius is doing a mic drop in the background. Cool. No, I agree. I'm a, I don't know, generationally, I'm kind of like early millennial, late Gen X, so I speak both languages, which is that, number one, fuck it, I don't care. And number two, I care a fucking lot. Like,
I would let you know, I just got called on a soapbox.
Yeah, I know you did. But the thing is, Helga is completely correct. More transparency, more honesty, more accountability is going to go long way to rehabbing everybody. I think that one of the things the Laurels do need to work on, and something that I wanted to do, my kind of crusade that I was going to do before COVID shut us all down, was to do these retreats where every Laurel that can is, we all go away for a weekend. Mundanes, doesn't have to be in costumes, but we all learn how to give constructive criticism, how to talk to people without belittling them, like these really basic kind of things, like that are really important though, and that people don't intuitively know. But the other flip side of it was that I wanted there to be the artisans, non-Laurels, who would take classes on how to receive constructive criticism, how to give it themselves. And I think that there is a big disconnect between the two things. So, or between the two groups, and Laurels and non-Laurels in the artist community, especially in the West Kingdom. And one doesn't really understand how to give critique. The other doesn't really understand how to receive critique. And then it's just nothing but angst. And so I would love that became a thing, that we educate ourselves on how to responsibly interact with one another in good faith. And so
I think that's really important. And the generational English is good.
We're all having that night.
Yeah, it's true. I have an apprentice who I'm 52, so I'm up there generationally. And I have an apprentice who's younger that I check in regularly, and I'm like, okay, I need a check here. And I think it's important that you have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Agreed.
All right.
Shall we go on to more sassy questions of the evening? Because I think we just tackled a big block there.
Yeah. Well, somebody did just drop in a really good comment in the thing that kind of summed it all up, which was, we also need to call people out on the amorphous. One Laurel was mean to me once, so I hate them all nonsense, because it is nonsense. Give me a name, give me a specific instance. Yeah, don't just be, and then that's the other part too, where, sometimes people don't feel comfortable speaking names and speaking up. And we also have to empower people to have that voice. And I think that's part of the accountability as well. So
Yeah, I was about to say this actually is a change in the generational accountability. Is
yeah.
one generation wants names versus one generation wants emotions and feelings. We cannot confront emotions and feelings. We have to confront actions, and so give us actionable offenses
Yeah.
so we can do that. Make a list of people that will actually help you do it too.
Okay, let's go on.
Let's go, because this has been
Okay.
like soapbox after soapbox after soapbox.
Well, we needed to address this question. We addressed it.
Yeah, we do have a soap mountain.
Okay.
All right. So the next question is probably going to cause just as much angst.
Oh boy.
I thought we were
This is a combined question from
Amadan and Antonio.
Thank you. You have fully embraced the E-SCA, which I hate that term, by the way, but we're using it because everybody knows it.
Yep.
What impact do you see the E-SCA having on the physical SCA culture once we get back to playing in person again? Part 2. How do you think the online SCA culture will evolve when that happens?
It's a really good question. I don't think that I have all of the answers. I know that we did a lot of live streaming Crown Tournament, live streaming ANS competitions, things like that, to our Kingdom Facebook page before COVID hit. It was really great for people who couldn't necessarily make it to the event but wanted, live action. I hope that kind of thing continues. I think that the classes that people are teaching are great. It's really wonderful to have a lot of educational content out there. I think that, the SCA being a 501c3, we're supposed to be educating. And I think that it's a good way to reach out and do that. I don't know.
It's not an easy question to answer because, we didn't really expect to be in this situation. Nobody saw this coming. Now we're in it, and this is the only way we can interact. So I think the idea that, at least for me, fully embraced the E-SCA, I don't think I willingly fully embraced it. I think I was kind of forced to embrace it because I had no alternative to engage with my hobby and my friends other than to do something like this, where we could continually kind of talk to all of you, have guests on the show that were fun and interesting, and give conversational topics that are interesting. I have a really hard time trying to project how that's going to actually work once we're able to go back to in-person events. But I do think that we're already seeing the E-SCA having an impact in kind of the traditional SCA scope. We are seeing awards given. We got an award. Between Two Peers got an award from Lockock. Yeah, for the stuff that we do on this show every week, and it was in recognition. It was kind of their a service award, but it was in recognition of the the work that we do to try to keep spirits up, to try to keep people interested and engaged. So I think we're already seeing the effects of it, and like Achaxe said, a lot of kingdoms, actually several kingdoms, have really embraced the E-SCA with these interactive courts and elevations and all of these really cool things that are coming out of the kingdom, not just individuals in the kingdom, but kind of coming down from the kingdom level. That's really cool, but it's not mandated, and so it's not across the board. We're kind of very in the middle there, I think, in the West Kingdom, with how much engagement we get on the kingdom level from events. Some things are definitely being held virtually. We have a virtual March Crown that's coming up. We had a virtual 12th night, courts that where awards were given. But it's just it isn't quite to the extent that I've seen other kingdoms do. And then there's other kingdoms that just aren't doing it. They're just like, we're just going to wait for this to all blow over, and then we'll go back to business as usual. Yeah, and then how things are going to actually shape out up with the E-SCA once things go back to normal, I really couldn't guess. But I'm going to guess that it's still going to be around, and I still think that it's going to be probably where we would have had a lot of pushback, like we did in the earlier before times of how interaction online is supposed to be considered. Are you really active in the SCA if all you're doing is engaging online? I think we're going to have less of an argument about that being valid. But I still think we're going to see the privileging of face-to-face interaction at events, specifically when you're being considered for things like peerages. I don't know. I don't see it being unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, a thing where people are going to look at strictly online interaction as the only thing they do, and get recognition for it. It's going to be really hard to make that argument, I think, once it goes back. But I could be wrong. Helga.
And so how I see the physical and the E-SCA or the online SCA culture changing and kind of evolving once we go back to in person, I think we're going to see a hybridization of, we now have a better understanding of what the jobs of our web ministers are, of how much our officers have to online interact. We now have a better appreciation for how much time that consumes. Before the pandemic, I think that we looked at our web ministers and we were just like, oh, this is something you do in your spare time. And now that all of us are forced to do this constantly, we're like, oh, we ask you to give up your lives for free and be IT tech for the SCA. Holy crap, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. Social media, same thing.
Yeah, social media, all that. And we also understand that, again, this comes into a multi-generational platform. The pandemic has forced us and the SCA to go online, which is a much broader audience than in person. Because if somebody doesn't know what's going on at an event, they're not going to show up. They're not going to spend the gas money. They're not going to do all the things. And we suck at marketing. Like, suck at it. And so this whole thing has forced us to reevaluate how we present the SCA on multiple platforms. And so what I think is going to end up happening is we're going to see a better and healthier SCA come out of this, because we understand we need social media presence. We need somebody that's active in answering questions. We need to be clear about why somebody's investing this time. Also, the coolest thing that I have seen come out of this is the multitude of online classes and the ability that all of us have learned how to run them. All of us have learned, okay, cool, like this is how we do Zoom. This is how we walk people through Zoom. We now have Zoom experts in the SCA to help us run collegiums. And so this is something that I think is going to see, we're going to see future collegiums where you can go to a class physically, or there's a camera set up that's talking to the teacher. And so this is the coolest part. I think it's actually going to start breaking down some of the kingdom barriers that we create. It's going to start breaking some of the distance barriers for learning. It's going to start breaking down some of those weird cultural differences that we have, because right now the SCA is one giant pot of fuckery. There are no kingdoms. There are no borders. There's nothing else right now, because the only way we can interact is online. And that is forcing us to get over culturally taught biases about other kingdoms. And so I think when we go back, at least what I'm hoping, because glass half full at this point, is when we go back, we're going to see a lot of the old kingdom arguments and strife go away. Because now we can interact for free. We can interact in an instant without having to drive 14 hours. You want to know how many rumors that's going to break? You don't know how many times people culturally are going to look at each other and be like, we do the same thing. We just explain it in a different way. And this has increased the pool of knowledge within the SCA. This has given so many students access to instructors in all forms and fashion. And so this is what I hope continues to happen, because I think it's going to make the SCA more accessible for the next generation. It's going to make the SCA more accessible for those that don't have the money to travel, that don't have the physical ability to travel sometimes, and so while being physically together is very important for the SCA and brings us to a single point, like we want to touch. We're social creatures. We want to geek out in person. I think that this will continue to help the SCA grow on a wider platform. And so I hope it keeps up. I also hope that we all appreciate it more and don't just brush it by, because Achaxes can teach all over the known world. You know how much Scythian culture she can spread in an instant, because nobody has to buy a plane ticket to have the class and take the class. They can show up. And so I think that that is really key, and we should continue that adaptation. And if we don't, we are going to strangle ourselves.
I want to see, actually, my wish is, in particular, the way Ontir handles their peerage meetings, where it is basically like WebEx, you know,
Yeah.
you all like sit. I would love to see that become a thing in the West Kingdom, so we can all be involved. You know, people that haven't been able to make it to an event for whatever reason can still have a voice in council, instead of the traditional, if you don't show up to council, you have no voice, which is not a great thing when the king tells you that. I've got told that before. But yeah, it is one of those things, like, you know, not all of us can make it to every single event, but we still have input and value to add. So yeah.
And going back to the generational thing, we had a lot of resistance to having meetings online from the older generation who just weren't familiar with the technology, and it was kind of scary. And all of those people are up to speed now. They're all on board now, and they're all able to participate fully, and it's fantastic. It's a huge step toward inclusivity in the Laurels Council.
I mean, I think Ontario is a great case study, because you guys have been doing that for several years. It's not right. It's not just something, and I think Kaid does something very similar too, where it's the regional councils, and then it's you know, get together once, or, you know, whatever, once or twice a year, have a big powwow. Sorry, that was appropriate. Sorry. I mean, have a big meeting. My bad. And then just, you know, then it pushes through basically. But yeah, we do it here in the West. It's usually at crown tournaments, on the Sunday of crown tournament, where you're desperate to pack up and get the fuck out. And yeah, and nobody's happy about being called for the 8 o'clock slot. That sucks so much. I've skipped many a Laurel meeting because it was 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I went to bed at like 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no way, no amount of coffee, nothing that could get me out of bed that hour to go do this, and then I have to pack all my shit up and get the fuck off site, and it's just stressful. It's going to be so much easier. Anyways, I hope that actually is something that becomes a whole part of it.
Cat in the frame, drink.
Kitty, there's Achaxe's kitty. Which kitty is this?
This is Hunter.
Aw, hey Hunter. I love kitties.
Also, for everybody's giggles out there, I asked my husband tonight, he was like, what would you like to drink for the show? And I was like, I would like a mixed drink on like the fruity side. Like I'm not into a hard drink tonight, because this week has been weird. And so he bought glasses because he decided to make me Cosmos. And I was like, oh, you can just put it in one of my Maggie mugs. And he was like, no.
Hansa understands the proper way to drink a Cosmo is in a Cosmo glass.
Yeah, literally went to the store and bought glasses for the Cosmo.
What a sweetheart. So do we want to do commercial break and come back, or do we want to do another question?
I'm good either way.
Achaxe, okay, let's do the next question, then we'll go to commercial break. Okay, so the next question is, what is the single best online resource you have found for enhancing your isolated SCA experience?
Somebody else go first.
Okay.
I'm actually going to say that one of the best online resources is how most of the museums have sped up their collections online and their research online, which is taking away the barrier of travel to get complex photos of a piece. All the background information on a piece, that is now all online. So you can go to the various museums. Most of it is for free. Some of it is behind a paywall, but you can typically find somebody in the SCA that has access behind the paywall. And so our ability to get access to documentation has exponentially increased due to this, because the museums are trying to survive, which is a windfall for us.
Mm-hmm. I think my answer is honestly YouTube. As much as I hate the platform, I have so much baggage about YouTube and the YouTube community and videos and all of these things. It's not. I'm not going into it. But the thing is, it has been a wonderful bridge to knowledge from around the known world, and we're seeing so many more people putting their content on YouTube, and classes, and for me it's mainly art based stuff. Like that's kind of my geek, and so I get into that. But yeah, just being able to like share knowledge, share discussion on YouTube and Facebook video as well with Facebook Live. It's such a huge thing that we can all participate in, and so we're doing it right now. And if you go on YouTube and you look up a tutorial on how to make a thing, and you can make the thing because somebody shows you step by step how to do it. Like it's like everybody can be their own Bob Ross, and like you can paint happy little trees. So like that's really cool. As much baggage and as much hate as I give to the YouTube side of things, like that is actually a really cool thing that is come out of this, specifically in the E-SCA. So
the thing online that I use most for E-SCA stuff is probably academia.edu. There are a lot of papers up there that I read and share, and then I will often send random YouTube links of how to do embroidery stitches to my students. Because
you can send those to me. I want to learn more embroidery. I suck at it, but I want to get better. So
I can't be there to teach it. Yeah. And sometimes I can just film myself, but the angles are difficult. And so if you can find just a good tutorial, it's kind of amazing what you can learn.
Man, there are so many costumers on YouTube that you want to know how to make a supportive 14th century kirtle, YouTube. You want to know how to make a Venetian gown, YouTube. It's all there. You want to know how to learn how to tailor something for like a 19th century waistcoat, YouTube. Like it's so cool how much information is now being shared there. I came out of a generation that was all word based. I was the blogging generation. Like we I was very early on, early adopter of this in like the late 90s, early 2000s, before it was even called blogging. It was just, you had a website and you wrote words and shared pictures, and that was it. And then like around roughly 2002-ish, 2003, blogging became, or web blogging as it originally was called, was a whole thing. So I got in on this really, nascent form of information sharing where we would do dress diaries, which was basically we would write these entries, these long usually had to be broken up into several different parts about every single part of the costume we were making. We would share photos of the progress and the process, or any mistakes that we ran into, things. So that's how I initially connected with my online costuming community, was through websites and blogging. And now that's moved, the new generation, it's moved on to YouTube, and it's all video now. And my little Gen X brain is mind blown. Like, people can do this stuff with software and like cameras. Like
my 11-year-old daughter taught herself how to card weave from a lady who does the whole process of card weaving on YouTube. And she was like, I'm gonna do this. And her auntie Rifkin bought her a loom, and she's card weaving now.
That's just super cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've had these artisans on Facebook as well that are kind of doing the same thing, where they're taking the little project that they're doing and they're doing like a video that they put. So this is that Facebook YouTube divide. It's essentially the same stuff, but it's happening on Facebook and not on YouTube. And I've run into this a lot on Facebook of, so-and-so did a tutorial on card weaving, for instance. This is how they do a basic setup for this thing. And I don't tablet weave, but man, is it fascinating to like watch in action. And I'm starting to think to myself, like, maybe I could try it. Like, so yeah. We did get an information here in the chat that I actually wanted to mention, because I was going to mention JSTOR as well. It's a journal, I couldn't even tell you what the acronym stands for anymore, but it's an academic journal database And JSTOR has always been historically behind a paywall, but in early 2020, when COVID hit, they basically were like, we're throwing the doors wide open. Anybody who wants to access any of our articles has free access to them. So that apparently is going away. Fleeg commented and said that it's going away next year, or sometime in this year. But that information is huge. Go on to JSTOR, look up the geeky medieval thing you're into, find all those journal articles, download them now. Academia.edu, another great resource. I get updates all the time, mainly because I put my master's thesis up there. So I'm getting all of these daily, like, you did this thing. Well, here are like 5 other examples of things that you might be interested in. Sounds so many interesting things that way. So yeah, it's all out there. The internet is wonderful for information sharing. Any other thoughts on this before I feel really awkward about rambling?
No, I think we're good. So do we want to do a commercial or another question?
Let's go to commercial. It's 8 o'clock, so we've been at it for an hour. We're going to commercial.
All right.
Longshift Luxury Goods is your one-stop shop for all your Viking needs. From clothing to feast gear and everything in between, we are the place to shop. Leather pouches, Viking long coats, chemises, drinking horns, flasks, potion bottles, knives, bone cups, and so much more. Please visit our website, longshipluxurygoods.com. Thanks for listening. Islamic, Greek, or Italian Renaissance, skull-adored Viking kitties. We're devoted to creating unique pieces of historically inspired ceramic art, a touch of the unique you can use all the time. Here's one of our artists working now. Hand-thrown, hand-painted, yet safe for food, dishwasher, microwave, and oven. Rennick Tane, which is Gaelic for start fire in reference to the heat of the kilns, the mother-daughter team with 6 degrees and a myriad of art awards between them, and a healthy amount of humor to bring it all together. Visit our website at rennicktane.com or join us on Facebook. Thanks for watching.
Rigger Crafts is a husband and wife business that was started when Jackie got out of the Navy. Now it was time to learn a new skill. Jackie took up metalsmithing, combining both historic and modern techniques to create beautiful works of historically inspired wearable art. Soon after, Shane developed Viking Yerrick Beard Care after creating his own all-natural beard care products for himself. All ingredients are organic and we never use filler oils. They're great for your hair too. You can find them at riggercrafts.com or facebook.com/riggercrafts. That's RIGR Crafts. Rigger Crafts, making beards majestic and Viking shiny since 2018.
You're not part of the cool kids, dog.
Okay.
And we're back.
Hey. Yeah.
Hey, Baby Ninja, mute your mic. Mute your mic. There we go. I just broke the the paywall, so
Paywall? No, fourth wall.
I was
I'm
still trying to
trying
eat my piece of pizza and drink a drink while we came back live, and Baby Ninja was talking. Like,
I was
English is out.
furiously trying to type out my master's thesis title so Kinhild could go look it up. It's called Devil in a White Dress, Marie Antoinette and the Fashioning of a Scandal. So that's
that's amazing.
Yeah. I know, like, it's a thing that is not an SCA related activity. What? Tulias
I'm
do
just
that?
exchanging cosmos. Because my husband's amazing. All right, so the next question.
Yeah, this is Yanka.
Yeah, this is from Yanka. Your least favorite and then most favorite thing to do as a consort.
I think the hardest thing to do is stand there and not throw up when your consort gets close to the upper levels of crown. That's hard for me. My favorite thing to do is just watch him, because fighting for him is it's such a passion, and we joke that it's his addiction. It just brings him such great joy, and being able to facilitate that is pretty cool.
For me, consorting is it's a whole thing for this nervous little critter. I think my least favorite thing is having to stand there and look serene while I'm internally screaming the entire time. That's the shittiest part, that I can't ever be happy doing that. I applaud other consorts that are able to just be like, nah, everything's cool, I do whatever and nobody cares and whatevs. For me, it's very much like I'm white knuckling the entire tournament. Well, not the entire tournament. Usually once it starts to get to like towards quarterfinals, then I'm white knuckling it, and then I'm internally screaming constantly. The most favorite thing that I do as a consort, I love tying my favor on my fighter's arm. I think that it's so I feel like a little girl, like, so romantic. It's so like, the Byronic vision of chivalry. And I get this little thrill. He brings it to me, and he asks me, will you, he has to ask for it every single time. And this is something I didn't realize was an actual thing until he did it. And I was like, well, duh, yeah. And he's like, no, I have to ask, because you can say no at any time. And so I always say yes, and I tie it on and give him a kiss. And he goes out there and he has fun. And he has fun. He has a blast doing this stuff. I'm the nervous wreck the entire time. But yeah, I'd say like tying my consort favor on his arm.
Least favorite, surrendering my power to somebody else's decisions and honor.
Thank you. That's so hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially the further they go on the list.
Yeah.
Finals.
Like I said, right about quarterfinals, I'm just like.
Well, and some people like to get touched. Like, some people want the support, and some people want the like bubble. I am definitely the bubble person. I'm just like, okay, so I need to start making lists. Mm-hmm. This is how this needs to go. I need to do this. Why didn't you throw that shot? Like, as another fighter, I'm just like joysticking it the entire time, where I'm just like up, down, X, B, Y, fucking roll the joystick, like, fucking do this thing.
So true.
So I'm just like one of those people where I'm like, do not touch me.
Yeah, I don't want to be touched either. I want the bulwark of my dearest friends to keep everyone else the fuck out of my space. Yeah. Do not touch me. I will probably eat you.
And so my most favorite, though, is watching him in the joy of either just the fight. I really feel that as a fighter and a consort, I am surrendering my power to another human being. And they are continuing to represent my honor, and they are continuing to represent who and what they are in the field while carrying it in my name. And it is one of my favorite things that I have never had a bad consort. I have never had a bad fighter. I have had friends fight for me. I've had my Wonder Twin fight for me. I've had my husband fight for me. I've had, people from out of kingdom fight for me. I have been very, very spoiled in the just plethora of people that have felt that they could honor me on the list. And my favorite thing is seeing their joy on the field, in the day, and in the moment. Win, lose, or draw. I am there to make sure they can be on the field. And by giving that gift, by giving the gift of trust both ways, they're there and they can do their thing. So, pew pew, there's my answer.
Pew pew. Also, Thomas commented in the chat. He said, I'm bringing you an Xbox controller for you to drive Hans in his next tourney. And I said, actually, that would totally help me. Somebody just walked up and handed me an Xbox controller. I'd be like, it's an activity. I can do something.
I'm really glad that nobody has video of me the first time he was in finals. And I was just like, fuck. Because they handed me roses. They handed me they're like, you're a consort. Yeah, I hand you roses. I'm like, I need you to understand these things are going to be destroyed by and they were. There was rose petals everywhere because things would go on and I'd be like, shred, fucking do the thing.
I'm not a fighter, but I deeply identify with that. The helplessness of you can't do anything. You're just standing there watching somebody else do all the things. And that's a real mind fuck. And I hate it. I really hate it. Anyways, any other comments on this before we move to the next question? Good. Okay. So this is from Santiago. What is the biggest challenge you faced in your respective arts?
So for me, I started researching a pretty obscure thing a really long time ago, before the internet was a thing, before you could, search terms in other languages. And so just getting new information. There was kind of one book that was the Bible, and then I would go to the library and get into the card catalog and try and interlibrary loan copies of books to get a hold of stuff. So that was really big. And then just the learning curve of doing your art. Felting is one of my big arts, and there were some rough patches in my journey to being able to make a decent big piece of felt, because it's not easy. So
I would like to get onto your, when all this goes over, can I come and spend a weekend at your house so you can teach me things?
Yes, please.
Because I see your stuff and I'm just like, I want to be that good. Fangirl moment number 2. I would like it noted for the audience. Fangirl moment number 2.
I was really spoiled. When I was first in the SCA, I lived 4 blocks away from Marquise Laurel, and she,
she's amazing. Oh my God, she's amazing.
She's amazing. Right now,
everything.
She's going down a painting journey, and she's in school getting a master's.
Everything she touches turns to the most perfect form of that art, and she's not a dick about it or anything. She's lovely.
No, and she's been making art since birth, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Right, her mom was a artist. Anyway, I lived just a few blocks from her, and so I was able to go up to her lair and suck some knowledge from her, and then go back and try it and take it back to her, and she would say, nope, take it all apart.
Yeah.
Fix all of this. And so I was able to make all of the mistakes with total support and somebody who could fix them all. And so I lost my fear of cutting into fabric, because I made all the mistakes and then I learned how to fix all the mistakes. Mm-hmm. So that was hugely valuable.
Yeah. Sewing is, most of it is, it's about 60-40 unstitching the thing you just stitched and restitching it. And you got to be okay with the process. You got to be really zen about it. And the sooner you have the zen about the unstitching, the happier you will be with sewing. So we did get some breaking news. I'm going to just break in real quick with this breaking news. Bridget texted us to say that the Royal Majesties of Atlantia have just sent Baroness Inogen of Clonmel to vigil this evening to contemplate joining the Order of the Chivalry tomorrow. Her Excellency will be their first female knight in Atlantia. So, huzzah!
Woo!
Very, very excited. As a female knight, I'm like, yes!
That's super cool. Okay, we now resume our normal kind of conversation. Helga.
Sorry, I had to put my glasses on because my eyes are getting tired.
Yeah.
So now apparently we're going with goth, like goth librarian.
Goth librarian is never a bad look. Just go with it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna actually read something that Casca posted for our beloved guest. Does your incredible guest realize how large of an impact her kindness and generous demeanor has impacted the SCA through the E-SCA?
I don't know. Do you realize this?
I'm sorry. I believe that's fangirl number like 7 so far for you.
In the comments, for sure.
Do not make me pull that over the rims.
Oh, well,
I always
I
do
can
that
get
over
back
the
with
rims.
you.
God, where are my glasses are upstairs, and I couldn't wear them anyway. I've got contact.
I was about to say, all you have to do is text Thorfinn, and he brings you down a drink and glasses.
Carius, I would love to accept your glasses, but you're like literally on the computer. Carius is
Everybody
like,
drank. I just broke the fourth wall.
yeah. So, Helga, would you like to answer the question?
Biggest challenge I face with my respective arts. Would one of you guys like to choose my respective art?
For you, so you're one of these people that has a lot of different talents, but the one that I think most people are very aware of is your shield painting, but your artwork. I would say you're a fine artist in the making. And I know it makes you just go, I'm not an artist. I just do the things I like. And I'm like, you're actually a really great artist. Yeah. So, just accept it.
So the biggest challenge I face with that is I had to find a way to learn that I knew the art would be destroyed. That's the reason why I love shield painting, because as a developing artist, because I will say that I am definitely a developing artist, knowing that something is going to be out there permanently scared the ever-loving shit out of me. And it caused basically it caused a panic that then stopped me from making art. And so I found a way to make art and appreciate myself as an artist at that moment in time. Also understanding that eventually that person is going to come back to me and be like, it is tattered and shredded, and would you make me the next generation of it? Yeah. And then I get to apply new knowledge to it. There are shields out there that I'm like, I need you to fight with that shield just a little bit more.
So there's an art historian term I'm going to teach you. It's called ephemera. It's ephemeral art. It is art that is not meant to last the ages. It is posters, things you see slapped on graffiti, like that kind of stuff.
And graffiti, stickers,
stickers. Yeah, that's kind of your thing, which is really cool. But you also done permanent types of art. You've designed tattoos for people.
Yeah, I have actually now designed. I have over a dozen tattoos on people. And it's almost all Scythian stuff, by the way.
Speaking of tattoos, before I go back in my answer, so Achaxe and Helga were both like, we're gonna go sleeveless and show our cool ass tattoos. So let's show your cool ass tattoos.
So amusingly enough, I have my own art tattooed on me, and then I have my friend's art tattooed on me. And I realized that when I had my friend's art tattooed on me, they went through the same weird thing I did the first time somebody got my art tattooed on them, where I was like, but that's like for the rest of your life. Like,
I designed a tattoo when I was like 19, and it still weirds me out that somebody thought my 19-year-old art was good enough to tattoo on their body.
Right? I'm the same way. And anytime somebody sends me the Scythian stuff, because I actually sell the Scythian stuff of like art rights of like if they want to use it, they can either donate to a charity or they can pay me for some of my time or something. Or trade something like that. And so, but like, I think my favorite, so this was a wolf that was done for me, actually off one of the Scythian belt buckles that's out there. This was done by one of my dear friends back east. This happens to be one of my favorite pieces that I've ever had tattooed, because it both represents my nature and my husband's symbol. And then my other side has the Scythian deer, which I would like to note the Scythian deer has its throat cut, and then it's got the princess sitting underneath it. That is a story that I've told on air before of butchering a deer, and then having a little like 6 or 7-year-old come over and talk to me about it, which was really, really intimidating. I would like to note, and so all my Scythian tattoos actually are based in the stories, and I am kind of covered in them.
Achaxe, tell us about your tattoos.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, let's talk about you.
so this one is not the Scythian art style, but it is based on one of the pectorals. There's a pectoral that's got, you can't really see it. Anyway, it's got all of these features in it, and it's also got guys doing things, Scythian men doing things, doing all the things that Scythian men do. They're doing things. Yeah. It's
Are they
a
wearing
really
cool
famous
penis
piece. So that's based on that, and that I got that kind of before I got into really heavy duty research on the Scythians and the E-SCA. And then the rest of them all have meanings. This is the first one I got. I got it on Mother's Day. It was the first Mother's Day that my husband and I were together. And I knew that I never thought I would have kids. And this was kind of my recognizing that this was a guy I could have kids with.
Oh.
So that's the significance of that. And then these two I got when my mom died. And then a year later, my cat died. So there's the kitty. And then that just because, you need more.
Yeah.
I don't have tattoos. I don't have a tattoo at all, but I'm telling you, like, all of a sudden being in lockdown, I'm like, I kind of want my first real thing out of lockdown to get a fucking tattoo, because I've been thinking about it for 25 years and just never done it. So
I went out when I turned 18 on my 18th birthday and got just a piece of flash art like right away, because I wanted to do it.
I think I was like 19 when I got my first tattoo. I was just like,
I've told this story on the show before. I wanted to get a tattoo when I turned 18, and I'm glad I didn't get it. And no, it wasn't like the tramp stamp butterfly or anything like that. It was the misfit skull on my bicep, the way that shit, now I'm blanking on his name, Cliff Burton, former bassist of Metallica, had it. So
I would approve of this tattoo now.
I just am really glad I didn't, though. Like, that was definitely a 18-year-old decision that was not something that I think a 43-year-old Tulia would be like, no, this was a great idea. It's mostly be like how do I cover this thing up? It's a big thing.
I mean, or you just end up like me, like.
No, I mean, there was no way to like make that thing anything other than what it was. Although I love the Misfits, like I'm not gonna lie, they're great. But so I didn't get to answer the previous question. I feel like we should go back to that very so slightly. The hardest thing to overcome, or biggest challenge with my art, it was. Honestly, I guess one part of it was like I said earlier, becoming comfortable with the idea that you've got to undo a lot of your work in order to make a thing. Sewing is very much well, if it doesn't fit right, you gotta take that bit out and you got to do it over. And there is a lot of that, especially very early on in your sewing career, but don't ever think that it goes away. I have sewn sleeves in the wrong way 4 times in a row. And it's so and that was not that long ago, but for me, I think it was psychological. There was also it is in the E-SCA harder in a lot of ways to be a late period costumer on the Laurel path, because that's been so done. The path is so well worn. It's like, grooves in the road at this point. What can you find that can add to things that everybody has rehashed for the last 50 years plus, if you're even talking outside of the E-SCA? So that was a big thing. Like, what original research can I contribute to late period costuming that has not already been done? And I, it was, for me, it was headgear. A lot of people really hadn't researched headgear. So I was like, well, I'm going to look at French hoods and I'm going to really just dig into French hoods. And also I was out to answer the question, did they actually wear corsets? The jury is still out because we don't have extant examples, but we have references that maybe kind of allude to things that kind of, maybe they, so there are still areas within this very well-tread area of the historic costuming arts that we're never going to get a complete answer to, and so if you're on that same path, don't let that discourage you, because that was something that was said to me that was kind of meant to be discouraging in a little way, which was, everyone is an expert on costuming because everybody has to make a costume in order to join the SCA. Like that was kind of the thing. Like everybody thinks they're an expert. So what are you going to bring to it other than just a pretty dress? So that was probably that's my answer. It was overcoming that perception, and also my own like internalization of that. And well, should I just, flip this table and give up and, quit? And I didn't. And, ultimately, yeah, sure, I got laureled. But yeah, I think that there is definitely within the laureate and without it, outside of it as well, there is certainly a perception that, well, anybody can buy a pattern and make a Tudor gown. They have so many resources now that are so easily available to people. And it's not the end of the story. You just got to find that one little piece and really kind of follow that rabbit hole. But it's a lot harder when it's not something that's very, very new or not well understood, to give like that kind of next level interpretation or next level education that it's looking, that the laurels look at, aside from, can you just make pretty things? That's my answer.
All right, so with that, on to the next question.
All right.
Okay, so before this question, I'm gonna tell you all that if we get over 100 likes on this episode before we close down, I have to buy a box of doggo treats for Baby Ninja's dog.
Okay.
And my puppy shows up on screen. So I'm going to remind you all that likes equal doggo treats or kitty treats, because, our amazing guest has cats and my amazing co-host has cats. So every 10 likes equals a treat for those amazing animals. So please hit that like button and help us totally spoil those animals. And if we hit over 100 likes, I go pick up my now 50-pound puppy and he shows up on screen, because that dog is going to be a monster.
Yeah.
Like
I have a dog too, and I will give.
He's almost 50 pounds.
Yeah.
I have a dog too. I will give him treats as well.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, like, help us spoil the dogs and cats that show up and are supportive of this show, because I have to pay Amazon to ship people like dog treats.
Yeah.
So
right.
With that, the next question is from Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go back and restart your shows knowing what you know now, would you do the same thing or would it be different?
That's a really good question. So, we talked about negative comments taking up too much space in your head. And one of the pieces of feedback that my sister and I have gotten is that we only interview peers and that we're elitist because we aren't including non-peers in our interviews. And, we had no idea that it was going to become what it's become. I think we both are still kind of like, what is happening right now? Because this is so weird. And we are starting to include non-peers in the sisters interviews. We really wanted to get through all of the Lions of Ontario before we did that. So if we were to start over again, I think maybe we would have had a slightly different focus. But then again, it's become something really cool and I'm really proud of what we've done. So maybe I wouldn't change anything.
We also get that same charge laid at our feet that, Between Two Peers doesn't interview non-peers, which is not true. Patently not true. When we started, I love you. Yes, thank you, Araya. Helga. Shit, that was my bad. When we started this, it was Between Two Peers it's a play on the internet show Between Two Ferns. And I just thought it would be funny if I was like, let's just call it Between Two Peers. Ha ha. And that apparently, though, has given people a lot of ideas about what the content of the show is, who haven't actually watched the show and are put off by the title of the show. And you know what? I can't convince. I love you so much, Helga.
Helga's got some feelings.
Oh yeah, there's some feelings. Helga is merely interpretive dancing the portion of what I'm about to say. And that is, that this was never the aim of our show, was to be exclusive to peers. Two things happen though. The first off is that we started interviewing our friends. Like initially what we started doing is looking at our friends, and the vast majority of our friends, because we've been in the E-SCA so long, are also other peers. It happens. You're in the E-SCA after a certain time, the people around you who are your buddies end up becoming peers. So you're going to be kind of like, it's harder to, I shouldn't say harder. It's just not your default setting. Your default setting is suddenly like, everybody's got a peerage or is very close to one. And so that's when we started pulling from our original, crew. We're just our close friends. Vera, who's Queen of the West.
Who was our very tolerant first guest.
Fuck. Man, you go back and watch that episode. She's just like, I did not sign up for this shit. But good sport. It was a great show. I actually would love to have her back on now. See how crazy shit gets. Like the second guest was Viscountess Ciela. Like, these are very like local to us, but like very close friends of ours. And so yeah, they ended up being by default initially peers, but we really quickly, I think, Helga and I realized like that's not what the show is really about. What we want to talk about is interesting people with cool, stories or fun, interesting things or perspectives from all around the known world. And those aren't always going to be peers. So we did actually start, incorporating more non-peers. I think my answer to this question really would be like, don't name it Between Two Peers. That would have been my answer. I don't know what we would have called ourselves, but I think having the word peer in the title sets people up for these expectations and prejudices and a lot of, negative thoughts about what this show is actually about. And they're never going to watch the show. They've actually vehemently stated it to our faces. Because they feel that it's just exclusionary and, elitist. So I don't know, but yeah, I probably would have, if I had known, picked a name that didn't have the word peer in it. So Helga, what would your answer be?
Okay, so are we having the anger translator happen on this?
You are actually the anger translator.
the poised like answers. I would like to know.
Exactly.
So the only thing that I would really change about it is that I would enact so we have now behind the scenes, we have a form for our guests to fill out, which gives them the various areas of like where they want to answer. And so I would have made that way sooner in the show. So we could model the show towards our guests, which would give our audience a better experience.
It only took us like 35 shows to figure
it. Took us 34. I think 34. It was 34 when I finally made the form.
Yeah.
And so I would do that sooner because really the show is about the guests. We're here and we answer questions. I would ask the guest questions way sooner. I would ask the and/or questions like way sooner. Because realistically, one of the reasons why we made the show was to start breaking barriers and to start breaking down a lot of things. And the feed box the feed box, I'm sorry, I was reading one of the comments when that happened. I'm not drinking that Cosmo right now.
That's okay.
Time for a water round.
Yeah, no, water rounds like the next one. And so, but some of the feedback we've gotten has been super harsh. And I've been blessed to have some very upfront conversations with other show hosts. Like, I'm just gonna say Dawn at this point because like that's way easier to say than your SCA name.
Achaxe, it's easy.
Like I want to butcher it. My brain panics as soon as someone's other name is there. I would like to note, Achaxe and I have actually had some very amazing conversations about stuff that's gone on behind the scenes. And we have been called pretentious. We have been called elitist. I have been slut shamed over this show multiple times. Yep. Like there has been some really fucking negative shit out of it. And I really wish that if one, I would change, the form. But the second thing, I would tell those people to go shove it publicly, actually more. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is put the fucking flesh down. Mm-hmm. Like right now, A Branch of Laurels is giving hours of their life.
Yeah.
Sisters Interview, hours of their life. Ask the Knights, hours of their lives behind the scenes to do this and keep things going in the SCA. And then
Coach's Corner.
Yeah.
Coach's Corner. And also I want to shout out to Vesper.
Calbard's Corner.
Calbar's Corner, Vesper, all of them are giving hours of their life to the SCA for fucking free.
Just so we can all feel connected.
Yep. And so this is the thing that I would actually change out of everything is I would tell those haters to go suck a dick way sooner than I did. Because I tried to like mitigate that damage. I tried to be that mediator and that negotiator and figure out what they needed to feel connected and everything else like that. And when I really should have just been like, you're going to slut shame me, or you're going to tell me that I'm elitist, or you're going to tell me that I'm not doing enough. Well, guess what? I'm still doing more than you.
Yeah. Where have you been?
Fuck yourself.
Where have you been the whole time?
And so apparently that had a lot more emotion in it than I originally intended. I had this very poised answer for this. And I had this very like adult answer for this. And then my week has just stripped away all of my adulty. And it's just going to say that I absolutely adore the people that are giving time by watching, by submitting questions to the various shows that are out there, by giving us props, by supporting, by just being there. And then I want to give all the love to all the hosts, all the people that are running events and everything else like that. And then they are dealing with the hate like champs. Because there's a lot of it behind the scenes. There's a ton of it behind the scenes.
And not so behind.
I can guarantee you every host of every show has been told they're not doing enough for the E-SCA right now. Yeah. And they are flat out giving their lives to something that they aren't getting paid for.
I think that counts as a soapbox, and
that 100% counts as a soapbox. I'm so sorry. I was not intending that.
Because I think it's a really important thing. Another show I want to shout out is Saga Saturday, which happens tomorrow on Saturdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time. They are some of the smartest people you're ever going to meet in the SCA, like ridiculously smart people. And occasionally they have guest spots on, and it's fun to watch and everything. Thorfinn got to be a guest on one of their shows in January. And just also the support that each of these shows gives each other. Like I suck at doing call outs. That's why I love Logan always in the comments. He's off doing more important things tonight, but so he gets a break. But normally he's in the comments like, yeah, why is your favorite show Ask the Knights? And I'm like, fuck, I need to do shout outs because this is the community now. And this is all of the interaction we have in the SCA. This is the tenuous thread by which we all cling to this weird ass concept that we do. And if all you're going to do is sit back and be shitty about it, and cool, that's your prerogative, but also why don't you start a show?
Actually, here, I'm gonna double down on that. I will, for all the haters out there, and you can quote me and you can fucking put it out there. For all the people that don't feel that we're doing enough, I will give you the time. Mm-hmm. I will spend time with you to help you run a show. I will help you talk about marketing a show. I will help you set up a Facebook page. I will meet your hate actually with the sacrifice of my time so you can do the thing that you think that we should be.
Helga,
Because maybe you'll fill a niche.
Helga, you love helping people, and that's why you're a good pelican. That is why you're not just because you spoke truth to power and told like the queen to fuck off or whatever it was that got you,
It wasn't the queen.
Okay, whatever, but whatever it was, like that's not the real reason. The real reason is because you are very much like, cut me open and let me bleed into your mouth so you can, nourish yourself. And I'm like, you hate us? Fuck you. Just figure it out. Do your own fucking show. Oh, okay. It's hard, right? Oh, weird.
and there's a difference between, hey, I think there's a niche you guys are missing. Yeah. And, could you look at, because we had two people come to us and when Ripken was doing the ducal interviews and say, we'd really like to see the duchesses and, mostly women, our consorts, be represented. And we said, cool. Do you want to do that show? Can we facilitate that for you? And so I produce Grace Under Pressure for Duchess Dagmar, and
which is super fun, by the way.
Yeah,
and they do a great job. It's super fun. So same offer that Helga has put out there. I'm happy to help out, and I know that Calbrand, I'm probably saying that wrong.
Calbard,
same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Cal actually in the comments said, if you want help starting a show.
And that's the thing. There's a difference between like some of the hate mail and saying, hey, I think you're missing a bracket. Because the Between Two Peers have gotten feedback where we're like, hey, we don't feel like we've seen this bracket. We know that you interview all of these people. Can we maybe like include this bracket? And fuck yeah, like we love feedback. Like, and that's the reason why we now have guest specific questions. It's the reason why we now have the rapid fire getting to know you icebreaker. Yep. We love feedback. And so even in that, like give us your commentary. But when it comes to slut shaming, telling us we're wrong or telling us we're not doing enough, I'm going to try to help facilitate you running your own shit.
Yeah. Well, you're a better human being than I am because I'm just like, well, bye.
Well, see, you're the bye.
Literally, I look like the nice one. You look like the scary one. It's really actually not really that way. Although you can be super fucking scary. I have seen Helga go full scary ass mode, but I'm a Capricorn. I'm like, never forget who wronged you. I will hang on to that shit for life.
So with that, do we want to roll into the sassy questions?
Let's go into sassy.
We can all roll over this one a bunch of times. So I would like to round this out actually real quick because I realized that we all had a bunch of emotional reaction to this as well as to-do reaction to this. Mm-hmm. And I can guarantee you that the three of us, our tech crews, a bunch of the support crews behind the scenes and everything else like that are willing that if you feel that we're not hitting a niche with the E-SCA, we will help you create your own content because there's only so much content that somebody can give. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel that there's something you want to do, we're here to teach you. Like, we're here to give you all the things. Because I can guarantee Sister's Interview and The Branch of Laurels and Between Two Peers and Calbar's Corner, we've probably troubleshot most of the bullshit at this point in time. So we'll tell you, like, hey, here are all the pitfalls. Like, this is how you avoid the pitfalls. Let us teach you how to not do this. And then beyond that, if you're going to hate, fucking send it in. We're going to drink your tears like a fine fucking gin with our pinkies up because you're a bitch and we're not.
Ooh.
So, and I love... I love everybody right there. So with that, Sassy, I believe the next question is yours.
I thought the last one was mine. Oh, no, it was mine. Okay, so this is from Radar. What are your favorite colors when it comes to garb that you'd like to wear?
Oh, so in my real life, I'm kind of an aging goth and I wear all black all the time.
Same, girl, same.
I
would like to note my aesthetic.
Yeah. But as you can see, my garb is all of the colors all of the time. So my husband's and my devices are red and yellow, and so that has been featuring a lot lately. And the Antir Checky as well is a thing for us. I love lime green. I love orange. I love all the colors. So yeah, that's my answer.
So I'm gonna have to just mirror our amazing guest, and I'm gonna say it's either black or neon.
Yeah.
Like
She's walked in with like bright ass orange neon tunic she's working on in the office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, and she's like, shut up.
Yeah, like I need you to not judge me because I'm gonna wear black lipstick with this. But yeah, I'm pretty much it's black, red, or neon. And I adore the fact that hot pink is a very period color.
It is.
Because it was incredibly easy to make.
Yes.
That is one of the SCA rumors that I wish I could squash.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna be like, my major peeve, pink is not period. Fuck you. Have you ever looked at a period painting? It's all
pink
over.
is super period. And so let's go with pink is super period, and neon pink is really easy.
You get some very bright pinks.
Yeah, it's insane. And I'll tell you, I would like to note that when my hair is actually dyed a real color, it's neon fucking pink. So I would say as a like middle-aged goth girl, black.
You are not middle-aged, girl. Fuck off. You are not middle-aged.
That makes me geriatric.
I was like, what am I? AARP?
I would like to note that my husband is 16 years older than I am, and I call him old all the time.
Yeah, well, my boyfriend is 8 years older than me, and I also say the same thing, and they're saying,
yeah, I'm like
Hansa, by the way.
But that's actually kind of like my weird aesthetic is, and so if I'm doing neon colors, it's always dark like trim. If I'm doing dark colors, it's always like neon trim. And so I'm just gonna say that if you can imagine every like 2000s hot topic goth kid, I'm going to apply that to my garb.
Oh, well, yeah, no, there was a very minimal overlap between the two. Especially when you're talking.
Baby Ninja, was your mic hot for that?
Okay, so Baby Ninja.
I need you to turn your mic on and then make that comment.
Yeah.
So what Helga just said was she has two settings. She has goth girl or rave girl, or for those of us that are Helga's and I's age, alt girl is the term for it. So goth girl and alt girl / rave girl, and there's no in between.
Wait a minute, how old are you, Baby Ninja?
I'm like 27.
27. You're not the same age as Helga. Helga's what, 34, 35 now? 34.
We're close enough that the terms actually overlap.
Yeah.
Demographically, yes, I will give you that, but only just.
Oh, just enough for me to make that comment. By the way,
radio,
for everybody watching,
radio demographic, yeah, you probably fit in the same radio demographic.
Okay.
But, you know.
Also, I would like to note in the comments, somebody said you're not old enough until you get your first AARP card. My parents stole my social security number. I've gotten AARP like messages since I was like 16.
No, that's a whole thing. Yeah. No, so but that doesn't count.
I mean, that totally counts, right? That's like a cheat code.
No, it doesn't. When you're 20 and you get your AARP because your parents stole your identity, that is not the same as when it shows up magically like it just did for Thorfinn. Literally like a week ago. He gets the AARP magazine and he's just like, well.
I'm sorry. Now what all of our like super dukes need to make is like business cards where they said you've just had your ass kicked by Duke so and so, and on the other side is like the AARP contact information.
Okay, so to answer the question, also you're a child, you're practically an embryo. The other part of it, where was the question? Oh, favorite colors. Okay, so yeah, like Achaxe, like Helga, I live my life in a normally kind of like gothy, black, gray aesthetic. Although during COVID, I've basically turned into kind of the swamp witch of Willis Avenue.
I like how Achaxe's like, did you like my swamp witch hair?
This is fake. This is fake. The real hair, it's not. It's a shit show. That's why I wear the fake shit. But anyways, I wear grayscale. Grayscale. I love grays. I love, all forms of black, light black, off black, dark black. Like that's my normal everyday stuff. Garb wise, I wear colors and I love bright colors. And I don't know why this just worked out to be that way. By the way, Achaxe, your kitty is killing me. It's that little curly tail that makes me so happy. I love yellow. Yellow is a color that I probably, if not for like very specific circumstances, would never wear in my everyday life, but I look phenomenal in it. And I wear a lot of costumes in the yellow spectrum. I love red. Blue. Blue is blue and gold are my heraldic colors. So of course I'm always kind of like, well, I like those colors a lot. So, but yeah, like, very vibrant, rich colors, and in fact, Achaxe, the tunic or whatever it is right behind you, that's the red and the blue, fucking love it so much. It's in period, people's ideas about color combinations were not modern. Like it was the eye bleeding, like screaming colors combined together to make it so you knew that you were in the presence of somebody really important. But yeah, I'd say yellow. Yellow is probably my favorite, but I don't wear anything yellow in the mundane life, but I love yellow as a garb color. I have so many yellow costumes.
I can't wear yellow. It makes me look just
I can wear yellow, and again, like, this is one of those. But yeah, no, I once I figured out that like brunettes with a certain undertone look really, really good in yellow. I was like, well, sign me the fuck up. I just was like double down on the yellow. So all right, next one.
All right, next question. That's mine. I gotta find it. Sorry. It's
Thomas, number 8.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thomas, what is your best, yes, I've been watching The Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi teaching advice or technique for your students?
Interesting. Wax on, wax off. I'm thinking that's like where he's headed with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn from your mistakes and make all the mistakes. And don't compare yourself to somebody way further down the line than you are. I had Laurel and husband at the time pull me aside at one point and say, don't ever try to be as good as her, because you'll never be as good as her.
Oh, that's not good.
Well, but it was, I think he was trying to tell me, don't try to compete with her because she's,
sure,
and he's right. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to be as good as myself, right? Mm-hmm. The only person I need to be competing with is myself, I guess, is really the point. So, next.
My wax on, wax off, soundbite would be know the rules so you can break them. Don't just go in and be like chaos. I do what I want. I mean, sometimes it works out, but I think it's really important that you have the foundation of whatever art you're trying to do. You have the foundational principles fairly well under control before you just go completely crazy with it and start, cutting corners and doing wacky things and that's my thing. Know the rules so you can break them. And I think it applies to many other things outside of the art world, but that's the one I do tell that to my dependents, kind of rule number 1. Helga?
So mine is shatter your own expectations. Because we will set ourselves up to fail because we will assume that we are not good enough. And I would like to also say that comes from the fact that I suffer from a huge fraud complex. And so that was a piece of advice given to me that I then pass on to my students is shatter your own expectations. because when you shoot for the stars, you may hit the moon, and that is better than most people will ever hit.
That's the. I think that's at least I think it's a quote from.
So they actually say
shoot for the stars if you miss.
Wrong, because they say shoot for the moon. Stars.
Yeah,
the stars are actually so much further than the moon. The stars are light years out of our reach. Always shoot for the stars, because then you're going to hit the moon. You're still going to stand many, many miles from any other human being that is out there. And this comes from now a scientific understanding, of like the fact that the stars are like way further out, which is the reason why they're smaller. They're much larger beings. But what I'll say is that we will set ourselves up for failure. We will set ourselves up for failure in what we expect, in what we were taught to expect from ourselves. And I come from an incredibly abusive background. And so I learned to down talk what I could do, which is the reason why I speak to humility and faith so often. And so always shatter your own expectations and understand that when you do, you will stand there and not understand what is going on. And so when my students set a bar, they need to understand that it's a passing point in their path. And they will be better than me, and they will be better than any teacher they have ever had, because that's the reason why they are there.
I was thinking of the Oscar Wilde quote, all of us are lying in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. That was the one I was mistaking it for. But yeah.
Yeah, I just like the shoot for the moon and maybe you'll hit the stars quote always drives me nuts, because I'm like, the stars are farther than the moon, right? The moon is like, we could throw a rock really hard with high velocity.
So actually Casca chimed in, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's true across the board. So
I would like to know, Casca actually is probably the reason why I'm the peer I am today.
Oh.
Because Casca scrambled my fucking brain the first time we hung out.
I'm gathering he has that tendency.
I will tell you, any peer or any person that is dealing with a fraud complex needs to go have just a cup of coffee with this man. And by the time you are done having the cup of coffee, you are going to understand yourself at a deeper level. End of story.
Yeah. Next question. Any further thoughts? Okay. So this is from Helga. This is a good one. What in your browser history that you would have to explain to someone else because they would likely make assumptions about you? I know Helga's answer. All this weird porn.
Whoa!
I can't.
I Google terms that my teenage son uses that I don't know. So.
Can you give us an example?
No.
It's not getting jiggy with it, is it? No. Okay.
I had to Google yeet a few years ago because I did not know what that meant.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
like 4 years ago.
Yeah, yeet is a word that did not exist in the adult lexicon until very recently. Yeah, I've had to give a definition to it, and I got to feel all like special. I'm like, I know what the kids these days say, and everyone's like, nobody says yeet anymore. Like, that was so 4 years ago. Whatever. Helga.
I'm totally teasing people about the fact that we're 26 likes away from puppy.
Aww.
Oh, if I could spell right, that would be great. Oh, I can't. I need you to understand.
Do you want me to go? Helga?
No, actually, I totally got this. So my browser history, we're going to leave porn aside.
Okay.
Like that's way the easy one for like when you're standing at the pearly gates and somebody's like, hey, we're checking your browser history. And you're like, can you not? if the FBI was ever checking my browser history, it's probably how to like reduce a body to bone mass.
I was gonna say like all your taxidermy or like
Yeah, all my taxidermy searches or like bone mass searches or
skull.
how long it takes to process something, or like amusingly enough, how to turn various animals into vellum.
Mm.
And so like if I was going to explain anything weird in my browser history, it would probably actually be like, what age is a good age to slaughter something to produce vellum for like scrolls? Because that's one that the FBI might be like, why were you asking that about a person?
Not really.
Oh, well, there's period text written on human skin.
Yeah, I know.
And so like I have looked that up. Like I have geeked out on the like processing a human body to turn them into a book. And like which parts are the best for what. So that might be my like FBI, like when I'm under the light and can't see anybody else around me, like, why were you looking this up? Because I have this weird medieval geeky hobby. And pig skin is really, really close to human skin, so I wanted the right resources.
Sounds perfectly legit to me. So probably for me, I will also say though, Araya and I work in law, so there's a lot of weird Google searches.
Yeah, like what is degloving?
Yeah, that's a fun Google search. I don't recommend it if you're squeamish at all and don't know what degloving is. Do not look it up.
Don't look it up.
Don't look it up. For me, it's my other hobby in the world, which is serial killers and murderers and things like that. So my search history is just kind of a cavalcade of like the worst of human behavior. So I'm not one of those weirdos though that fetishizes murderers and all that shit. I'm just really fascinated by like the psychology behind it. And also, I don't know. I don't like horror, but when it's fake, I don't like it. When it's real, I'll be like, this is super engrossing. But yeah, so that's probably all the serial killer, like Wikipedia rabbit holes I've gone down in my life. Anyways,
the thing I've Googled the most is people's OP listings for interviews.
Oh,
like so much that those like there's 3 different kingdoms that show up
automatically.
Yeah.
So
that actually has to be like the weird thing in your Google search when you're like, no, I'm looking up a recipe. I don't need to know where somebody ranks in their kingdom. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, basing off this, what is the weirdest thing that you have Google searched in the last 6 months? Like within the SCA realm.
Oh. Nothing that weird, I don't think.
There's a process that you can clean wool by fermenting it in its own shit that it's you stick it in a bin, and I'm blanking on the name, but I Googled that and that's pretty weird.
I will admit that's a little weird.
I honestly can't think of anything that's terribly weird that I've Googled in the SCA sphere. Yeah, no. I mean, I do a lot of like researches about like random things where I'm like, this weird tradition that we do, like, what's the deal with that? And then I go in this weird rabbit hole on the West Kingdom history site. And I get into like newsletters from 1966, which by the way, you want to hear some real like fucking snarky shit, go read those early newsletters where they're basically like one person is all throwing a volley at somebody else that they disagreed with, and then that other person responds in the next newsletter. It's like fascinating how things worked before the internet.
We should actually probably do a show based on like the internet or the pre-internet SCA.
Oh man, that was a whole thing. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's super weird or out there.
I will totally say is how to process horseshins, because horseshins are basically like shaped like a knight's chain link, and I wanted to look up how to like like what point in decomposition I needed to like cut apart horseshins to start making knight's chains out of them, because I thought that was a really, really cool thing. And I will admit that my mare died, and I really thought about making a knight's chain out of her. Because I'm a fucking weirdo. I would like to note that also the vet thought I was really weird too, because I'm like, where do I need to do this? And he was just like, you're not a normal horse owner, are you?
All right. Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, no, let's. I think we've actually. So I want to say that I have absolutely enjoyed the show. We've gone on rants. I have flipped off more people this show than I think in any other show combined.
Pretty much.
Also, I would like to note that I have fangirled on you, and a shit ton of people in the comments have also. So you are one, E-SCA internet famous, and two, a viable source for what you do. So fuck off when anytime you have the fraud complex, because we will remind you that you are worthy.
I don't have the fraud complex. I have the nobody's realized what an asshole I am complex. That's my. It's not like everybody. I know my shit. I'm just waiting for people to be like, yeah, and you're a giant asshole, Tulia.
So with that, wrapping up the show, do you have any shout outs?
I do. I want to give a shout out to Bronze Hammer. Master Torfinn Torgelson makes Viking age jewelry.
I think this is one of his. I'm wearing one of his right now. I'm pretty sure this one. Yeah.
They had they lost power for I think 7 or 8 days and got 4 feet of water in their basement and lost their furnace and their water heater and a bunch of stuff. So buy stuff from him.
He's on Etsy.
He's on Etsy. He's incredibly talented. And support your local artist.
Torfinn. He's Torfin. I think on Etsy. I think that's, or also Bronze Hammer is the name of his.
Yeah. So one of the things is Between Two Peers will post a link for this, and we will get it out to everybody to support Bronze Hammer, because like we've done it for Maggie when they needed support. Bronze Hammer now needs support. It is time. If you've got the extra cash, he is totally worth it. I rock his stuff all the time. Actually, and so it is amazing work. Please support them, because then we have E-SCA artists and various artists across both the LARP communities, the E-SCA communities, and the reenactment communities when we come back. So if you have the extra dollars, spend it with them.
I'm gonna give a shout out again to Saga Saturday, because I love what they do and how they do it, and they're just, it's a fun group of people. It is Kinhild and Ula and Bercy. Sometimes they mix it up a little bit depending, so they have a guest spot, but mostly it's those three, and they're rad, and they have really interesting conversations about sagas, Norse sagas and adjacent type sagas, but I think mostly Norse sagas. But I've learned a lot listening to them, and it's one of my favorite things Saturday morning when I'm getting my coffee to tune in. So
definitely. So I'm gonna give a shout out to Ask the Knights, because fuck yes, follow Ask the Knights. Go check them out. They're an amazing show. They're doing some really, really good things. Calbar's Corner is also producing a ton of content. So if you want to go produce a show, I would say, hey, check out Calbar's Corner. He will help you get a show up and running, because, well, we're stuck in this pandemic for at least another 4 months. So, like, let's get more content out there. And then the other thing that I'm going to shout out is our amazing guest is involved in so many shows. The Sisters interview does the Duchesses, or the between.
Grace Under Pressure.
Thank you. Because this week is me coping through alcohol. Like, I'm just going to admit that publicly. Like, So Grace Under Pressure, Sisters Interview, Branch of Laurels, they do a huge amount of time, but also they produce a ton of content. They are worth going and checking out. Like, share, and follow their content. If you want to get over, Laurels are bitches, they're doing the work to do it. because they are bringing you a ton of laurels from all over the known world who will talk with you and exchange ideas. And also they become real human beings every show. And so I would say check them out because it's worth the time.
And Rifkin is also starting a show called Leveling Up, things that you could do in the pandemic to improve your kit. So that should be starting soon.
Yeah.
So,
I would like you to send me all that info so I can follow that.
when she gets it going, I will do that.
Fine. Awesome. I like how all of us have now suddenly put pressure on her about that. So I hope she's watching the show of just like,
Yes.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to say like, share, and follow Between Two Peers. Like, share, and follow the sisters' interview and this, their entire series. Go follow Cowbar's Corner. Also, a bunch of us have merch. And the merch supports the shows going on. Like we just recently spoiled all of our tech crew with your purchases. So I'm going to tell you that everything that goes through merch and goes through that is supporting the people that make this happen. Not just like going into anybody's pockets. And then next week, Sarah or Sassy, I'm going to drink to that. Do you want to introduce our guest and your guest host and tell us a little bit of what's going on?
We got a great show next week. I'm very, very excited about it. Number one, our guest host is going to be Baron Aaron. Suddenly blanking on his last name. Anyway, Aaron, he was a Coelho. Yeah. He was one of our previous guests, and he's agreed to come back on the show and interview Master Charles de Bourbon, who is fabulous. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Please tune in. This is I rarely like hella hard sell this show, but it's going to be a great show.
I will be watching.
Yeah, you should be watching. It's going to be a lot of sass, a lot of real talk, and a lot of just fun. They're both wonderful people, and I'm super looking forward to it. So yes, tune in next week. Charles de Bourbon.
That's going to be good. And then other than that, we just want to say thank you all for like, sharing, and following. We are here because you guys continue this, and all the web shows out there are there because you continue to give your time to watch us do what we do. So hang out with us in the Discord. And then other than that, we'll see you next week.